Noah's untouched coffee sat beside me, its foam collapsing around the shape of his absence. For 3 years, Wednesday mornings had belonged to us. The same corner table, the same chipped blue mugs, the same argument over who had forgotten to buy groceries. But lately, Noah left before I woke up and came home after my bedroom light went dark. His messages had shrunk from full sentences to thumbs-up icons. That morning, the chair across from me stayed empty while the espresso machine hissed and ceramic cups struck saucers behind the counter. At 8:17, I stopped pretending he was merely late. "Mind if I take that?" someone asked. Liam stood beside the table, one hand curled around a paper cup. Amber light from the front window caught on the silver ring around his thumb. I knew him from campus, mostly as the guy who could turn a 2-minute presentation into something people actually wanted to hear. "Go ahead," I said, moving Noah's mug aside. The ceramic was already cold. Liam sat down, bringing with him the smell of coffee and peppermint gum. He asked about the sketchbook near my elbow, and when I showed him the unfinished charcoal drawing inside, he studied it instead of offering automatic praise. "You erased the faces," he said. "Only the ones I can't figure out. Maybe you know them too well." The observation landed closer than I expected. I looked toward the entrance out of habit and saw Noah through the glass. He had one hand on the door. His dark jacket was damp at the shoulders, and his hair looked as if he had dragged his fingers through it all the way there. For one suspended second, the cafe noise seemed to recede beneath the low music and the pounding in my ears. His eyes moved from me to Liam, then to Noah's abandoned mug beside my hand. I lifted my fingers, ready to wave him over. Noah released the handle. The door never opened. He turned and walked past the window without looking back. "Friend of yours?" Liam asked. I was already pushing away from the table. The chair legs scraped sharply across the tile. "My best friend." Outside, the air bit through my shirt, carrying the smell of wet pavement and bus exhaust. I caught sight of Noah half a block away, moving fast between pedestrians. "Noah!" He heard me. I knew because his shoulders tightened beneath his jacket. But he didn't stop. My phone vibrated in my palm before I could call again. A message from him filled the screen. Something came up. "Don't wait for me tonight." 6 words where an explanation should have been. I typed, "Are you okay?" The message showed as delivered, then read. No reply came. Behind me, the cafe door opened, releasing a burst of warmth and roasted coffee into the cold. Liam stood in the doorway holding my sketchbook. "You forgot this." I walked back and took it from him. The rough paper cover pressed into my palm, familiar and solid. "Thanks." "For what it's worth," Liam said, glancing toward the corner where Noah had vanished. That didn't look like indifference. When I returned to the table, Noah's coffee was still there. I raised it to clear the space and found a second message waiting beneath the first. "Have fun with Liam." No period. No explanation. Just Liam's name, from a man who had never once asked whom I talked to before. Across the window, my reflection occupied the chair Noah had left empty, and for the first time, I wondered whether the distance between us had begun long before I noticed it, or whether seeing me with Liam had just made Noah decide to widen it. Rain ticked against the apartment windows Wednesday evening, and the radiator answered with dull metallic knocks. I sat at the kitchen table beneath the amber pendant light, dragging charcoal across rough paper, while Noah moved behind me with the careful silence of someone trying not to be noticed. The air smelled of graphite and the tomato soup warming on the stove. My phone vibrated, skittering an inch across the wood. Liam had sent me a photograph of a gallery flyer, Student Visions, Friday, 7 p.m. Beneath it, another message appeared. "Your charcoal work belongs on walls, not hidden in a sketchbook. Come with me?" "Something interesting?" Noah asked. His back remained turned as he stirred the soup. "Liam invited me to an exhibition Friday." The spoon struck the rim of the pot. "Once. Hard." Noah lowered the flame before facing me. Cold rainwater still darkened the shoulders of his jacket, and the kitchen light sharpened the tension along his jaw. "Don't go." The charcoal stopped between my fingers. "What?" "Liam isn't trustworthy." Noah crossed the room and set his keys on the counter with unnatural precision. "You barely know him." "Neither do you." "I know enough." "From what, exactly?" Watching him return my sketchbook, the refrigerator hummed into the quiet. Noah's gaze dropped to my phone, where Liam's invitation still glowed against the screen. "He collects people," he said. "Makes them feel special until he gets bored." Did he do that to someone you know? Noah opened his mouth, but no answer came. Steam drifted between us, carrying the sharp scent of basil. So you don't have a reason, I said. You just don't like him. That should be enough. His voice had gone flat, yet his fingers curled against the counter until the knuckles paled. Enough for whom? I picked up my phone. You can dislike Liam. You don't get to decide whether I spend time with him. Noah stepped forward before I could type, planting his palm on the table beside the screen. The movement sent my charcoal pencil rolling to the floor. Ethan. My name came out low and stripped of its usual warmth. He wants more than a conversation about your drawings. And if he does? Something shifted in Noah's face. His eyes snapped to mine, then away, as if the question had struck somewhere he had left unguarded. The radiator knocked again. Outside, tires hissed over wet pavement. Then you'll get hurt, he said. You don't know that. I know men like him. You are a man like him. Noah looked back at me. For one suspended second, neither of us moved. His hand remained beside mine on the table, close enough that I could feel the heat coming from his skin. No, he said quietly. I'm not. The words landed with more weight than they should have. I remembered every easy Wednesday we had shared, every date I had mentioned without earning more than a teasing comment, every stranger Noah had welcomed into our orbit without this rigid posture or sharpened voice. Liam had done nothing except sit across from me, look through my sketches, and ask me somewhere. Yet Noah stood as if that invitation threatened something with his name on it. I lifted the phone and typed before I could let his expression stop me. I'd like to go. Send me the address. The message turned blue. Noah read it over my shoulder. He withdrew his hand, leaving a faint print in the charcoal dust, then switched off the stove without serving either bowl. Fine, he said, taking his keys again. But when Liam shows you what he actually wants, don't pretend I didn't warn you. The apartment door shut behind him with a force that rattled the framed photograph in the hallway. In the sudden quiet, Liam's reply lit my screen with the gallery address. But I stared at the dark doorway instead, hearing the one thing Noah had not said and could no longer hide. He did not merely distrust Liam. He could not stand the possibility that Liam might want me, and that I might let him. The elevator doors shuddered apart beneath a strip of fluorescent light, spilling a cold mechanical hum into the fourth-floor hallway. I stepped out with my sketchbook tucked beneath one arm, and found Noah waiting between our apartment and the stairwell, his back against the cinder block wall. The air smelled of wet concrete and the bitter coffee in his untouched paper cup. Move, I said. Noah pushed away from the wall, but planted himself in front of me. His jacket was damp at the shoulders, and rainwater glinted in his dark hair. Tell Liam you're not going Friday. The bluntness stopped me more effectively than his body did. Somewhere below us, a door slammed and footsteps faded down the stairs. You don't get to decide that. I know what he's doing. No, you know he sat with me for coffee and invited me to an art show. I shifted toward the apartment, but Noah moved with me, blocking the lock. The cardboard cup bent beneath his tightening fingers. He wants a date. Maybe he does. Noah's jaw flexed. And that doesn't bother you? What bothers me is my best friend acting like I need permission to talk to someone. I reached for the doorknob. Noah caught my wrist, not hard, but enough to stop the key inches from the lock. Warmth from his palm pressed through my sleeve while the cold brass bit into my knuckles. We both looked at his hand. He released me at once, as though the contact had burned him. Don't talk to Liam anymore, he said. The hallway seemed to contract around us. That isn't concern, Noah. That's control. Call it whatever you want. Then give me one real reason. I set my sketchbook on the floor. Its charcoal-smudged pages fanned against the gray carpet. Did he threaten me? Lie to me? Hurt someone? Noah said nothing. You can't answer because this isn't about Liam. I stepped closer, forcing him to retreat until his shoulders touched the wall. For once, I was the one refusing him an exit. You skipped our coffee, disappeared overnight, tried to cancel my plans, and now you're physically blocking my door. Either tell me what this is, or stop interfering. The vending machine at the far end clicked, dropping a can for someone who was no longer there. Noah stared past me toward the rain-streaked window. His crushed cup leaked a dark line over his fingers. I saw you through the cafe window, he said. You were showing him your drawings. So, you don't show them to people. I showed you. That was different. His voice scraped lower. Everything with us was different until he sat in my chair, and you looked at him the way you used to look at me. My key slipped from my fingers and struck the tile border with a bright metallic snap. Noah finally met my eyes. There was no accusation left in his face, only something exposed and furious at having been exposed. "Watching you with another guy makes me feel like I can't breathe," he said. "Seeing him take pieces of you I thought were ours, I can't stand it." The radiator pipe knocked once behind the wall. I bent for my key without breaking eye contact, then unlocked the apartment and held the door open. "You don't own any piece of me." Noah's throat moved. "I know. Do you?" The apartment beyond us was dark, still carrying the faint smell of the dinner he had switched off and abandoned. Noah remained under the harsh hallway light, coffee dripping from his hand. His demand had finally become an admission, but it left one question between us sharper than the boundary he had crossed. If he could not bear to see me with someone else, what exactly had he been hiding behind the word friendship? Rain glazed the gallery windows Friday night, turning the streetlights outside into long amber smears. Inside, track lamps burned against white walls, and the room smelled of wet wool, acrylic paint, and the sharp red wine being poured into plastic cups. Liam stood beside me as I handed my coat to an attendant, but my attention remained on the entrance until the glass door closed behind another stranger. Noah was not coming. "You made it," Liam said, tapping the corner of the sketchbook beneath my arm. "I wasn't sure you would." Neither was I. Still, I followed him into the crowd. I had accepted the invitation because the choice belonged to me, and surrendering it now would turn Noah's jealousy into a rule neither of us had agreed to. Liam guided me past charcoal portraits, wire sculptures, and a wall of photographs washed in cold blue light. Whenever he introduced me to another student, he mentioned my drawings. Soon my sketchbook was open beneath a lamp, its rough paper whispering under curious fingers. A senior named Maya paused over my portrait of a man reading beside our apartment window. Noah's face emerged from the charcoal shadows, his mouth softened by concentration. "You should submit work next semester," she said. "This one feels like you knew what he was thinking." My phone stayed silent in my pocket. At 9, Liam offered to buy me dinner, but I declined and walked home alone beneath an umbrella rattling in the wind. The apartment windows were dark when I reached our block. Upstairs, the key turned too easily, and the door drifted inward without meeting the resistance of Noah's boots. The radiator hissed. Cardboard scraped against hardwood somewhere inside. Noah stepped from the bedroom carrying a taped box against his chest. The shelf behind him had been stripped of his books. His blue mug was gone from the kitchen rack, along with the coffee grinder that woke me every morning at 7. "What are you doing?" I asked. He lowered the box beside 2 suitcases near the door. "Leaving. Because I went to an exhibition? Because you told me I don't own any part of you." His voice remained level, but one corner of the cardboard had buckled beneath his grip. "You were right. That doesn't mean you disappear. I tried asking you not to see him. You said no." Noah picked up his keys, removed the apartment key from the ring, and placed it on the counter. The small piece of metal struck granite with a clean, final click. "So I'm not asking again." For years, our life had been built from ordinary repetitions. Wednesday coffee, groceries on Sundays, his shoes blocking the hallway, my charcoal dust on the table, 2 voices arguing over what to watch. Now empty rectangles marked the walls where his photographs had hung, and cold air leaked through the open bedroom window. "Where will you go?" "Caleb has a spare room." He lifted one suitcase, then the other. This time, I did not block the doorway. Keeping my choice meant allowing him his, even when the price stood in front of me carrying half our home. Noah paused on the threshold. His gaze dropped to the exhibition stamp on my wrist, then moved to the sketchbook under my arm. "I hope Liam gives you what you wanted." Before I could ask what he thought that was, he walked away. The stairwell door closed below with a hollow boom. On the counter, Noah's key lay beside a pale ring left by his missing mug, and for the first time since we had moved in together, there was nothing in the apartment that said he intended to come back. The refrigerator clicked off, leaving the apartment so quiet that I could hear rainwater ticking against the fire escape. Noah's key remained on the counter beneath the yellow stove light, cold and serrated against my palm when I picked it up. By Saturday afternoon, the room smelled of stale coffee and the cedar soap he had taken with him. I had slept on the couch without meaning to, still wearing the faded exhibition stamp on my wrist. Liam texted shortly after 3. "You left before I could show you the rooftop installation. Let me make it up to you." An hour later, I met him outside a narrow cafe near campus, where wet tires hissed across the pavement and warm air carried the scent of cinnamon through the open door. Liam had been kind at the exhibition. He had placed my sketchbook beneath clean white lights, introduced me to people whose names mattered in the art department, and stood beside me while Maya praised the charcoal portrait I had drawn of Noah. Nothing about him deserved the suspicion Noah had thrown at him. That should have made the choice simple. Liam bought 2 coffees, and we walked beneath dripping awnings until we reached the covered steps of the arts building. Amber security lights shone across the rain-dark concrete. Maya meant what she said, he told me. You should submit next semester. Maybe I will. You always say maybe when you mean you're afraid to want something. His shoulder brushed mine. This time, I did not move away. Liam set his cup beside his shoe and turned toward me, close enough that I caught the peppermint on his breath beneath the bitter smell of espresso. His hand touched my jaw carefully, giving me every chance to refuse. For one suspended second, I waited, not for Liam's mouth, for the stairwell door to slam open, for Noah's footsteps to strike the concrete, for his voice to say my name with that rough edge he used whenever another man stood too close. No one came. Liam leaned in, and I placed my palm against his chest. Stop. He froze immediately, then stepped back. Rain drummed against the metal awning above us. Did I misread this? No, I lowered my hand. I did. His eyes moved over my face, then settled on the charcoal smudge still caught beneath my thumbnail. It's Noah. It was not a question. When you touched me, I wanted him to walk through that door. Saying it aloud stripped away the last place I could hide. That isn't fair to you. Liam picked up his coffee, but he did not drink. Does he know? He knows he doesn't want me with anyone else. I don't know what he wants instead. Then ask him. I'm going to. I deleted the half-written apology I had been composing for Noah and called Caleb. The line rang 4 times before voicemail answered. I left no message. I pulled my jacket tight and headed into the rain, first toward Caleb's building, then across 2 blocks of shining pavement when the doorman told me Caleb's spare room was empty. Wind pushed icy water beneath my collar. At the bus stop, I called Noah once, twice, and a 3rd time. Each call went unanswered. I finally sent one sentence. I'm not asking you to protect me or choose for me. I'm asking you to meet me and tell me the truth. 3 buses passed, spraying mist over the curb. Then my phone vibrated. Noah had sent an address near Lake Union and 2 words, 10 minutes. I closed my fist around his apartment key and stepped off the curb before the signal changed. This time, Noah would not decide what my life should be, and I would not let silence decide what we were. Rain stitched silver lines across Lake Union, and halyards knocked against sailboat masts with the hollow rhythm of distant bells. Beneath a waterfront shelter, Noah stood beside a dark blue duffel bag, his hair damp, his hands buried in the pockets of his charcoal coat. I reached him with 3 minutes left, lungs burning from the run and the cold apartment key pressed into my palm. You came, he said. His voice nearly vanished beneath the hiss of tires on wet pavement. You gave me 10 minutes. I wasn't sure you'd use them. A bus groaned away behind us, leaving diesel in the rain-heavy air. Noah looked toward the black water instead of at me. On the bench beside his bag lay a manila envelope bearing the university registrar's seal. What is that? I asked. He took one hand from his pocket and held out the envelope. His knuckles were pale from the cold. Inside were withdrawal forms, a transfer acceptance, and a train reservation leaving Seattle the next evening. The destination printed at the bottom blurred when rain struck the page. You're transferring? The paperwork is done. Noah finally faced me. Caleb's room was only supposed to be temporary. I'm leaving Seattle. I folded the papers once, too sharply. You moved out 2 days ago. When did you arrange all this? Before the exhibition. The mast lines clattered overhead. So you had one foot out the door while ordering me to stay away from Liam. I knew I couldn't keep doing that. Noah gripped the shelter rail, its wet metal squeaking beneath his fingers. Every time you mentioned him, I wanted to find a reason he was wrong for you. When I saw you talking to him, I didn't care whether he had actually done anything. I only cared that he might become someone you chose. Why? The question landed between us without anywhere left to hide. Noah shut his eyes. A gust carried the sharp scent of lake water and soaked cedar through the shelter. Because I've loved you since high school. His fingers released the rail. Since the night you stayed on the gym steps with me after everyone else left. You handed me your headphones and acted like sitting in silence was normal. You were the first person who understood that I didn't always know how to ask someone to stay. His mouth tightened before the next words came. And you became the only friend I couldn't afford to lose. The key cut deeper into my palm. Noah looked down at my closed fist, but did not reach for it. I told myself friendship was enough. Then Liam showed up, and everything I had buried turned into rules you never agreed to. That wasn't fair. So your answer is to disappear? My answer is to stop making my feelings your cage. He lifted the duffel bag and set its strap across his shoulder, making the decision physical and immediate. You don't feel this the way I do. If I stay, I'll keep waiting for you to choose me, and you'll keep having to defend every choice that isn't me. You don't know what I feel. I know you went with him after I asked you not to. That was about my right to decide. Exactly. Noah stepped out from beneath the shelter. Rain darkened his coat within seconds. I'm finally respecting it. I followed him onto the glistening walkway. By taking away my chance to answer, he stopped, but only for a breath. You asked for the truth. That's the truth. His voice broke against the wind, then steadied. I loved you. I handled it badly. Now I'm paying for that by leaving the one person I wanted to stay with. He walked toward the street, the duffel striking his hip with every step. The envelope softened in my wet hand, but the departure time remained legible. Tomorrow evening. One day to decide whether letting Noah go was freedom or the worst silence I had ever chosen. By midnight, the radiator had begun clicking inside the apartment walls, each metallic knock louder in rooms stripped of Noah's books, shoes, and half-finished coffee. I set the rain-softened envelope on the kitchen counter, and something rigid slid from behind the train ticket. A small brass key struck the tile. Blue tape circled its head, marked in Noah's cramped handwriting. Hall closet. The closet smelled of cedar and dust. Behind the winter coats, the key opened a gray cash box I had seen 100 times and never questioned. Inside lay dozens of sealed envelopes, their edges yellowed or bent, each bearing my name and a date. The oldest was from our senior year of high school. My fingers left damp marks on the paper as I opened it. Noah had written about waiting outside the nurse's office when I got sick before finals, pretending he had skipped class because he was bored. Another letter described walking 3 miles through sleet after my car battery died, because he could not stand the thought of me waiting alone. The pages carried years of moments I had mistaken for habit. Noah driving across Seattle when a date left me stranded, sitting awake while I finished charcoal studies, warning me away from men who mocked my work when I could not hear them. Beneath every act of protection was the same confession, rewritten and withheld. I love you too much to say it. I read until the radiator went silent and dawn turned the windows from black to bruised blue. Then I gathered the letters, shoved them into my backpack, and called Noah. He answered on the 4th ring. Traffic hissed behind him. Ethan, come back to the apartment. I don't think that's a good idea. You left me the key. A pause. I forgot it was there. No, you didn't. 40 minutes later, the lock turned. Cold air and the smell of wet pavement followed Noah inside. His gaze dropped to the open cash box, then to the letters spread across the kitchen table. The color drained from his face. I held up the oldest page. You loved me when we were 17. Noah shut the door carefully. Yes. Every time you showed up, every time you warned me about someone, it wasn't fake. I know. The words stopped him more effectively than anger. I crossed the kitchen and pressed the letters against his chest. He caught them before they slipped. Now I understand why you did it. That doesn't make every choice right. His jaw tightened beneath the pale morning light. I admitted that. You admitted you handled it badly. I need you to hear exactly how. I tapped the letter between us. Loving me explains why you wanted to protect me. It does not give you the right to decide whom I speak to, whom I trust, or whom I might choose. Noah looked down at the handwriting he had hidden for years. The paper trembled once against his coat. I thought if I said what I wanted, I'd lose you. So you tried to control the choices that might take me away. That could have made you lose me anyway. The refrigerator hummed behind us. Outside, tires whispered over the rain-dark street. Noah placed the letters on the counter one by one, as though returning something breakable. Then I'll go, he said. Not because I want to. Because staying cannot mean waiting for another chance to make your life smaller. I stepped between him and the door. I didn't ask you here to stop you from leaving. His eyes lifted to mine. Then why? Because these letters answered how long you've loved me. They didn't answer whether you can love me without choosing for me. I moved aside, leaving the doorway open. Your train leaves tonight. Before you board it, decide which man is going. The one who runs before I can answer, or the one who can finally stay long enough to hear me. Noah's hand closed around the strap of his duffel, but for the first time, he did not reach for the door. The departure board flickered above King Street Station, washing the crowded concourse in amber light while rain rattled against the tall windows. Somewhere beyond the glass, a train released a low metallic groan. I pushed through the evening crowd, my wet sneakers slipping against polished stone, and searched every dark coat near the platform doors. Noah stood beneath the clock with his duffel at his feet and a ticket folded between two fingers. The final boarding announcement crackled overhead. Noah. My voice struck the vaulted ceiling hard enough to turn heads. He looked at me, but did not move, as if one step in either direction would decide everything. I stopped several feet away, lungs burning, rainwater cooling beneath my collar. You told me why you were leaving, I said. I came to tell you why you can't. His jaw tightened. Ethan, if this is guilt, it isn't. The word carried across the concourse. A couple beside the ticket machines glanced toward us, but I had spent too many years protecting the shape of our friendship from the truth inside it. I would not hide now simply because strangers could hear. I went to the exhibition because the choice had to be mine. I stopped Liam from kissing me for the same reason. Noah's fingers creased the ticket. You don't owe me an explanation. I'm not paying a debt. I stepped closer. The station smelled of wet wool, coffee, and cold iron. I kept waiting for you to appear. At the gallery, near campus. Even when Liam leaned toward me, some part of me was looking over his shoulder for you. The muscles in Noah's face went still. That doesn't mean I love you. A suitcase will clicked across a seam in the floor. Then even that sound vanished beneath the rush of blood in my ears. Not because of those letters. They only forced me to recognize what was already there. You've been inside every place I called home, every routine I trusted, every future I drew without admitting whose face was in it. Noah looked down at the ticket, then back at me. And what happens the next time I'm jealous? You tell me. You don't issue orders. And if you choose someone I don't trust, you can warn me once. Then you trust me to choose. His eyes shone beneath the station lights. And if I'm afraid you'll leave, say that too. Don't punish me for a goodbye that hasn't happened. The platform attendant called for final boarding. Noah lifted his duffel, and my stomach dropped until he carried it away from the gate. At the service counter, he placed the ticket beneath the glass. Cancel it, please. The clerk tore the boarding slip with a dry snap and returned his identification. Noah came back holding nothing but the duffel strap. I'll stay, he said. But I won't start this by making you responsible for keeping me here. Then stay because you choose me. I do. His hand rose, paused between us, and remained open. I placed mine in it. His palm was cold, his grip careful. No rules disguised as protection, he said. No silence disguised as sacrifice, I answered. Outside, headlights smeared gold across the rain-soaked street. We walked toward the exit together, not yet knowing how to turn years of instinct into something honest. At the doors, Noah stopped. Before we go home, there's one thing we need to settle. His thumb brushed once across my knuckles. When I'm scared of losing you again, what do you want me to do instead? Cold rain breathed through the station doors, carrying the smell of wet pavement and diesel into the warm concourse. Noah's question remained between us while travelers rolled their suitcases over the tile, each wheel clicking like a small countdown. I looked at his open hand, then lifted my gaze to him. Tell me you're scared, I said. Don't decide who I can talk to. Don't disappear to punish yourself. Just tell me, and trust me to choose what I do next. His fingers tightened once around mine. Even if your choice hurts me, especially then. The ride home passed beneath blurred streetlights and the steady hiss of tires on rain. In our apartment, the air smelled faintly of dust and the coffee grounds Noah had forgotten to empty. His side of the entryway stood bare. He set down the duffel bag but did not unpack it. Instead, he took his phone from his coat and placed it on the kitchen counter between us. A message from Liam glowed on my screen a moment later. Hope everything worked out. Maya says the submission deadline for next semester is Monday. Noah saw the name. His jaw shifted, and his thumb pressed against the frayed edge of the duffel strap. For years, this would have been the moment he went quiet, found an excuse, or turned concern into an order. This time, he drew a slow breath. Seeing his name still gets under my skin, he said. I know he respected your answer. I know you chose to come after me. But part of me wants to ask you never to see him again. The refrigerator hummed in the silence. Rain tapped the fire escape outside, sharp against the metal. Noah picked up his duffel. So I'm going to unpack while you answer him. And I'm going to trust that your answer belongs to you. He carried the bag toward his room before I could reassure him. The zipper rasped open, followed by the soft thump of folded clothes returning to drawers. Noah was not asking me to prove my love by shrinking my life. He was accepting the risk that loving me meant I could remain fully myself. I replied to Liam, thanked him for his honesty, and told him I hoped we could remain friends without ambiguity. Then I added that Maya should save me a submission form. When I entered Noah's room, his train ticket lay torn in the wastebasket. He was hanging his charcoal coat in the closet, the wooden hanger trembling slightly beneath his hand. I answered Liam, I said. Noah turned, waiting without asking to inspect the message. We're staying friends, and I'm submitting my charcoal work next semester. A smile touched one corner of his mouth. You should. Maya has been right about that for months. I stepped close enough to feel the cool rain still trapped in his hair. Now you get to ask for what you actually wanted. His throat moved. Will you stay with me tonight? Not because I'm forbidding anyone else. Because I want more time with you. Yes. The first kiss was quiet and brief, his palm warm against my cheek, both of us leaving enough space for the other to pull away. Neither of us did. Weeks later, Liam waved when we passed him near campus, and Noah's hand twitched beside mine. He did not grab me or steer me away. He said, I'm jealous. I answered, I'm still here, then crossed the walkway to speak with Liam while Noah went ahead to pick up coffee. 5 minutes later, I found him waiting outside the cafe beneath the pale winter sun, holding 2 steaming cups. I chose him again, not because he kept the world away from me, but because he finally trusted me to walk through it and come back.